Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Helen Pennant, Director of the Cambridge Trust, and I'm delighted to have been invited here to talk to you about supporting students at Cambridge, especially following such an energetic and brilliant presentation from a former student. To support African students is not only to support the individual, but to support African universities and African countries. Professor Dunn mentioned this morning that Africa urgently needs 1 million researchers. And the High Commissioner of Kenya mentioned to me at lunchtime that in Kenya alone, there needs to be 2,400 PhDs in the next 4 years. So there seems to be a crisis for higher training of African research students. Scholarships for students, particularly graduate students, are essential to the future of scholarship and research in Africa. Before telling you about the scholarships that we offer, I'd like to say something about the Cambridge Trust itself. The Trust is a charity founded in the 1980s with the sole purpose of giving financial support to students on degree courses here. Today, the Trust is the largest provider of scholarships at the university and every year gives 500 scholarships to international students. Our principal objective is to make a Cambridge degree accessible to outstanding students from all parts of the world, irrespective of their social or economic background. Scholarships are awarded on the basis of both academic merit and financial need, and are available at all levels of study, undergraduate, master's, and PhD. Since its foundation, the Trust has supported 18,000 students from all over the world, and in each academic year, we're supporting approximately 1,200 students. The Trust is able to offer such a large program of scholarships thanks to its partners. We've heard a lot about the importance of working together for shared objectives today, and partnerships are hugely important to the Cambridge Trust. In addition to the funding they provide, they also help us to advance the Trust's objectives of bringing the best students to Cambridge wherever they're from. Our partners bring knowledge and expertise specific to particular countries, regions, or disciplines, and they help us to reach out to the outstanding students who might not otherwise think of applying to Cambridge. Through our partners, many of whom address a perceived societal or economic challenge, the Trust is able to support those who contribute to future society and development. We've got about 80 partners throughout the world, and they vary in character and scale. They can be governments and state agencies, other trusts and foundations, higher education institutions, corporations, or private individuals and philanthropists. When it comes to programs that are available for African students, our partners include the Rwandan Ministry of Education, the Sky Foundation and Centre for Scientific and Industrial Research in South Africa, the Beacon Equity Trust, which supports Kenyan undergraduates, the Byte Trust, supporting master's students from Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, the David and Elaine Potter Foundation, which supports postgraduate students focusing on governance and human rights, and the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Kenya. However, even with these valuable external partnerships, the Trust was not able to provide sufficient support for African students. And that's why this year, in partnership with the university and Cambridge Africa, we established a new program to provide fully funded PhD scholarships, 5 of those every year for 5 years, to students from sub-Saharan Africa who are doing research which is relevant to the development of Africa. These scholarships, which the Vice-Chancellor mentioned this morning, are open to all disciplines. I'd like to emphasise that because it's open to all disciplines in recognition that the issues that confront Africa are complex, multifaceted, and they require to be addressed from a range of perspectives and through multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research. This year, the first year of the programme, we already managed to find 5 outstanding students to fill these scholarships. They're studying land economy, engineering, plant sciences, and development studies. And they come from Nigeria, Niger, Ghana, and South Africa. So we're off to a very good start with that programme. The presence of these and other African students at Cambridge is immensely important to the intellectual and social life of the university and also to its research endeavours. I think Dr. Pietro Giordino's, she's just shown very vividly that students, particularly graduate students, are the problem solvers and innovators who allow Cambridge to conceive the solutions to global problems. And along with Cambridge, along with its partner universities across the world and in Africa, the students are the lifeblood of the collaboration and the solutions that come through focused research. Students are the human connectors, both while they're here and after they graduate. Wherever they end up, they remain connected both to Cambridge and Africa. The Cambridge Trust aims to strengthen this connection, and it's through students that new partnerships open up. Throughout the year, we offer various activities to the students who hold one of our scholarships. We do this in order to celebrate their achievements and also to help them form networks between each other and also get to know the external partners who support them. Events hosted by the Trust include a welcome event for all new scholars on their arrival in Cambridge. And this year's event took place last Saturday. And I was delighted to invite 44 new students from Africa. And they came from 14 different countries. We are off to a good start this year. We also hold an annual event in the Fitzwilliam Museum, and this photograph was taken there last year. So, as I said earlier, we give about 500 scholarships every year. Some of those scholarships are reserved for students of a particular nationality or discipline, whilst others are open to all. And every year there are a number of African students who win all categories of scholarship. This year there were 44. But although these are valuable numbers, they're simply not enough. And so we are working towards a wider availability of funding, specifically for African applicants. A strong and sustainable flow of candidates from African countries requires a source of funding so that no student who could benefit from coming to Cambridge is turned away. So we're engaged in raising funds to create new scholarship opportunities. We work with colleges, we work with Cambridge Africa, the university and external partners. But we're also engaged in reaching out to prospective students. And this week, thanks to the AIMS network and Irene Tamagjong, who set it up for me, I was able to connect with 97 prospective students at AIMS centres via a webinar. They were sitting in their AIMS centres in Cameroon, Ghana, and Senegal. And next week, I'm going to connect with the other AIMS centres. I told them about the Trust, about scholarships, and about how to apply for them. So the Trust is the largest provider of scholarships at Cambridge, but it is not the only provider. And I'd like to mention that African students can also apply for other scholarships at Cambridge. The Gates Cambridge Scholarship is a very attractive package for graduate students. and they reward both academic excellence and leadership qualities. There are leaflets about those scholarships outside in the other room, and colleges also offer scholarships. All sources of funding are easily searchable on the graduate admissions website. So the Trust is keen to hear about the challenges faced by many students when they come to Cambridge. And this week from our African students, I've heard about the challenge of learning to ride a bicycle. I must say I admire the student who's kept going with that challenge, and I'm sure she'll be a better rider than most of us when she's finished. There are, however, serious barriers to students coming from Africa, and the Trust is engaged in representing their interests, and we're very keen to hear what those challenges are. They include immigration barriers, which act as a disincentive to coming to study in the UK, and the university's application fee. But I'm certainly on the application fee very positive that a more practical solution can be found for African students very soon. The Cambridge Trust then has been supporting African students at Cambridge for 3 decades, but 2 years ago we decided to step up the support and made scholarships for African students a priority. And since then, as in many of the areas we've heard about today, the progress has been rapid, positive, and embarked on with an enthusiasm that you can't help leaving one very positive for the future. There's been a lot of mention about Cambridge, Africa, the links. Is it Cambridge in Africa? How does it link? Well, for me, the past 2 years, it's been a very rich experience and a learning experience. And I'd just like to thank you all in this room for bringing Africa to Cambridge so that people like me who did not know too much about Africa 2 years ago have been able to learn a lot from you, from the students who come from Africa, to the colleagues in the Cambridge Africa Network. So I urge you to visit our website and pass on the information there about scholarships for African students to any prospective students that you know could come here and benefit from study and enrich our environment at Cambridge. Thank you.
Again, that was great, Helen, and I think the effort that Helen personally has been putting in, both to actually trying to grow these scholarships, but also the outreach work is fantastic. So I'd just like to endorse the things she said at the end. There's a lot of people in the room who do know a lot of people and can pass the messages on and on so that, we can keep increasing both, as I say, the number of scholarships, but also the number of students who are able to come. But press questions now for Helen. Yeah, one on the back row there. Right on the back row, right on the back row. There's one right on the back on the right. Back right first and then come down. I'll come down here. Yep.
Thank you for that very encouraging story of great success. However, my interest is, over the 3 decades, have you tried to track the number of students from Cambridge who return to Africa, and you can account for them for being major contributors to the development of their respective countries, because there is a high level of attraction of most of our people to this side of the world?
Oh, yes. Well, thank you very much for that question. And the issue of return to one's country is a preoccupation for many of the students that we support, not just the ones from Africa. My personal view is if we wish to invest in the leaders of the future, we shouldn't constrain them by an obligation to return, but it's up to us while they are here to help them see the possible pathways back and the incentives for return. In my experience, all the students who come here want to return to their countries of origin, but sometimes if they come for a degree which takes several years, they become slightly detached and can't see how to apply their skills back in their country. So some of the partners I mentioned, we're working with to help create incentives and pathways back. And your question about tracking previous students is very good. We haven't done enough. We know we've got 1,700 alumni who came from Africa. We're in contact with some of them, and we asked some of them to promote the current scholarships and got a very enthusiastic response. But I would like to do more about showing the value of the scholarships to those students and what they've done on return to Africa. Or if they didn't return, what they've done in terms of making bridges back to Africa.
Great, thank you. There's a second question there. Yes?
Yeah. Oh, thanks very much, Helen, for highlighting this opportunity in detail. Mine is on the link between getting the scholarship and getting admission.
Okay, right.
Are these related, or a person can apply for the trust scholarship and then can get admission as a basis of the scholarship?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's another very good question. So because we're an independent charity, one of the advantages of having scholarships in that kind of arrangement is that we're at arm's length from the admissions process. So we cannot affect the admissions process. Students apply to the university for admission. They indicate when they do so if they wish to be considered for a scholarship. And it's only after they gain conditional admission that we get their files to consider them for a scholarship. So I think it means that the process is very rigorous and the integrity of the decision-making is separate. But the process is quite simple for the student because it's on the same form that they apply for admission and the scholarship.
Okay, any last question? Sorry, somebody said here. Yeah, over the back.
Just a quick one. I was wondering if the Cambridge Trust has reached out to the very wealthy Africans, like the Dangotes and the Alakijas, who are spending billions of pounds trying to buy Arsenal Club and so on and so forth. Maybe they're not very aware that they can actually contribute to this sort of programs to support more Africans to get scholarships to come here. They can afford it. Mm-hmm. Have you been able to create a way, maybe the university, to reach out to these very wealthy Africans to support?
Well, yes, I know I've got several colleagues from the University Development Office are in the audience, and we have all kinds of plans as part of the campaign which was mentioned to reach out to people who could contribute to a scholarship. And it's a very rewarding cause to give to because you see an immediate impact in changing an individual's life, and then the knock-on effect to their countries of origins, the universities in their countries, is priceless, really. So yes, we're very much intending to do that.
Great, thank you very much, Helen. Thank you.